We do God's work.
There are women and children in there.
You will be king. The throne is my birthright! Summon my baby brother.
Father chose you because he knows you're strong. You have to help us.
In the Silver Mountains, there's said to be bandits who despise your brother and his men.
I will have what is mine.
How'd you find me, lad?
You were his friend.
We fought alongside one another.
You're the outlaw they call the White Ghost.
I am the White Ghost.
If we escape my brother, I will be the king. I will give you a reward.
How old are you? 10?
14!
If you save this boy, God will forgive you.
Men cannot know God's will. When they pretend to, it ends in blood.
That I'll drink to.
Welcome to They Call This a Movie, testing the strength of friendships one terrible movie at a time. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and other podcast services by searching They Call This a Movie. We are part of the Main Namey Network. To find more from us, check out the website at themainnamey.com or on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at The Main Namey. We are also now a proud member of Geek Vibes Nation. You can find them at gvnation.com. Welcome back to They Call This a Movie. This is Anthony Lovecchio, and with me as always is Dan Aquino and Mark Myers. Say hello, gentlemen.
How's it going, everyone?
Yeah, no bit, just a question. Would this movie we watched today be what happens if you let a 5-year-old write a script and they just wrote about all the things they'd like to see? Like, oh, I like a little bit of sword fighting. Oh, and some archery. And they have to be ninjas and just sort of throwing everything at the wall.
This might be the most sophisticated 5-year-old ever, but sure.
Yeah.
I want the guy who played
more
Darth Vader.
Description.
Give me Darth Vader. Okay, what else do you want? Nick Cage. Okay.
5-year-olds, notorious Nick Cage fans.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they love him.
Yeah.
5-year-olds. We really need to make a lot of money in the Chinese markets too.
It's just, did I turn this into one of those tweets where somebody says, "Oh man, my kid today"?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. My kid wanted to know why everything is going on. Like, why are they trying to steal this thing? Like, no, your kid's never ever mentioned anything. It's like geopolitical, anything like that. Your kid was probably shitting its pants and.
Yeah. But before we get into the movie that our favorite 5-year-old wrote, what did you guys watch this week?
I actually took a little bit of a break, because I had just been binge watching horror movies, and my psyche kind of really needed that, because it was just like constant nightmares, really. So the only thing I started watching The Blood of Zeus on Netflix.
Okay.
And it hasn't really helped my psyche, because it's really weird, because Greek mythology was very like incestuous, and just like, the gods are just like banging everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, all right, well, this is kind of a horror as well, so I didn't really help myself. But it's it's an anime. I think it's pretty much in this. Have either of you seen the Castlevania Netflix series?
Nope.
No,
Okay.
I have not.
It's in a similar vein as that, but Matthew Mercer's in it, so I figured I'll check it out. So it's interesting, but again, kind of nightmarish at times.
Okay. Mark, what about you?
Yeah, so no movies. The only thing I watched this week that was quite interesting, but thought to stick along to it, but the Gaming Historian came out with a new video, and it was about when they tried to put Mega Man on the PC back in the 90s, and just how it was basically one guy made it, And it was just a really interesting story of how Capcom and how PC gaming was back then. So that was really the only thing I watched outside of preparing for everything we got going on that I think this will air after. But yeah, just got to listen to that in the background. And if you have any interest in documentaries or even things with video games, it's a nice quick little one about something that probably many of us don't really know about.
Okay. For me, not much. It is a short week. We recorded Sunday. So we're recording this on Thursday, so we don't have a whole lot of time. But in terms of me, Mandalorian came out. I haven't watched that. I've only gotten halfway through The Boys. I've gotten halfway through Watchmen, all this great stuff that is at my fingertips and I can watch anytime I want, but I chose not to. What am I watching? We're running through The Secret Life of the American Teenager, and I couldn't be happier because this show is insane. If this was a movie, would be a perfect choice for an episode of this show.
Yes.
The show's insane. I've seen it before, or at least like the first 2 seasons or so, because my parents used to watch it, and when the time the show aired, I was still living at home, so I caught plenty of it. The show's wild. I love it. It's maddening. Shailene Woodley's character is the main character. She's the titular American teenager. I mean, I guess everybody is, but she's like the girl that gets pregnant in the first episode.
Yeah.
She makes a heel turn in this show, completely unexpected.
Yep, that's what I've heard.
It's wild. I don't usually suggest watching teen dramas. Mark might, but I usually wouldn't.
Yeah.
But this one, if you're gonna watch one, this is it. It's insane. Ernie Hudson's in it sometimes. He's awesome.
Ooh, that's a good thing.
Jennifer Coolidge has a extended guest appearance.
Molly Ringwald's the mom.
Molly
right?
Ringwald, she's terrible. Gotta be honest with you. Steven Sciarippa from The Sopranos has an extended guest role.
This is from the writers of Seventh Heaven, or the creator of Seventh Heaven.
Yeah, Brenda Hampton. This show's crazy. If you wanted to do a drinking game, you wouldn't last a commercial break. Drink every time someone says the word sex. My God. Even for teenagers, these kids are obsessed. Like a little too obsessed. But they're like chased at it. So it's like they're talking about it like clinically.
Even I had to take a break every now and then when I was a teenager.
Well, it's not even like they're all having sex. They're all just talking about the want to have sex and just very clinical about it.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm just saying, even me, I was like, I thought about it, talked about it, and then, I at least took a weekday or like one day during the weekend to do it, just sit down and play some Mario Kart or something just to forget about it.
Yeah. But that's what we've been watching. It's really just it's kind of a background show for us while we're doing other things, but it's a fascinating show to watch. Suggest it for if you're in that kind of headspace where you want to watch something completely bonkers.
Awesome. I had a question for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a tweet about a week ago and I was discussing it with someone at work and I just wanted your take on it. So there was a tweet about how on the set of the new James Bond movie, was it No Time to Die, Daniel Craig saw Rami Malek in makeup for the first time. And the tweet was like, he was so taken aback. He had no idea. I was like, well, like, why does this always happen with actors? Like, they know who's in the movie, don't they? They know it's makeup. Like, it happened with The Dark Knight with Michael Caine when he first saw Heath Ledger as the Joker. Did you hear that story?
Yeah.
So, yeah, essentially, the first time the Joker comes up into the party, and that's the first time Michael Caine was seeing him, and that's the genuine reaction, like, oh, holy shit. Why? You know who that is. You read the script, did you not? Like, oh, and then the Joker comes up to okay, so that's when I see him. Got it. Am I wrong? Am I off here? Should these people not know what the hell's going on?
That's the thing, Dan. Daniel Craig thinks it's all real.
Oh.
That's how they get such great performances out of him.
Mm-hmm.
He's really a spy.
Yeah, he really thinks he's a spy.
Oh.
He calls MI6 and they're like,
they gave him a special number, right? Every time he calls Ralph Fiennes, like, oh, here we go. Yes, 007.
He just thinks Knives Out was a mission.
You have to go undercover in the bayou. Okay, I got to work on
he
my
went method for Casino Royale and never got out of it.
Right.
He's just been James Bond acting since 2006.
Can you imagine? That's a terrible fate to suffer. He just thinks he's Bond, and we go with it.
There are really aliens in this western town.
I would not want to be stuck in Cowboys and Aliens. That'd kill me right then and there.
John
Smother me with a
Favreau's
pillow.
masterpiece.
For all the good things he's done, like obviously you're not always going to hit home runs, but that movie, whew, oh boy, that hurts. I just rewatched that maybe like 2 months ago. Just remember like that there was so much hype over that movie.
Yeah.
And it was so bad. It made no sense, really.
I remember seeing that in theaters, but that's about how much I remember it.
I watched it on a Friday night. I just got home from work, and it was probably like an awful day at work. And I was like, I don't want to go to bed because then I'll have to wake up and suffer life all over again. So I just want to stay awake as long as humanly possible. And that came on. I'm like, all right, I'll watch it. But man, it was probably worse to do that because then I watched that and then had to do it all over again the next day. And it was just punishing myself. Going back to my original point, aren't actors should know what's going on, right?
Sure.
Okay, so it's not just me. Like everyone's like, oh my god, that's right. Amazing.
I think in the case of Michael Caine, you're having to process a lot at the same time. Not necessarily just the flustered from just the moment of being like you're seeing him for the first time. Not like, oh my god, he's so scary looking. More like, oh, all right, well that's what he looks like. I have to process that. I haven't gotten a chance to process it like everybody else did. Now I'm having to do it in the middle of a scene.
Okay. That would make more sense because if he's not around Heath Ledger, he's not going to be able to see that. But like, so now you've seen Rami Malek, right?
Yeah.
But you're offset. You're like, are you going to freak out every time you see him? Oh my God. You look like there's something on your face. Are you okay? Oh, it's makeup, Daniel. Oh shit. All right. You scared me there. I think it's what annoyed me was how if you saw that walking down the street, I don't even think I would give that a second look. I just kind of look at it and be like, oh, that guy's got a fucked up face. All right, whatever. But people are like, oh my goodness, this is incredible. For some reason, it just bothered me.
You know what? I don't even really know what Rami Malek is supposed to look like in this movie right now. Off the top of my head.
For a treat, man. When you go see this movie,
I'm gonna be taken aback.
Yeah. Oh, Dan was right.
We have genuine reaction to it. It's real, baby. You can't fake that.
But as a viewer, has anyone ever done that? like when you saw the Joker, did you jump in your chair?
No.
Dear God, you know the Joker's gonna be in it, right? I mean, I thought it was like, oh, well, that's interesting, but I wasn't like I didn't throw my popcorn everywhere.
I've only done that when David Bowie did his cameo in Zoolander. It's like, holy shit, it's really him.
But it's the Duke. I don't know. I don't think as a audience member, as a viewer, outside of like a horror movie, obviously, where they're trying to make you jump. I've never been in like a Marvel movie and they show like, oh shit, the Abomination. That's incredible. No, it's it's fake.
Well, you say this now, but when you see the new look of Steppenwolf, in Zack Snyder's Justice League, you're gonna be singing a different tune, baby.
I'm sure I will. It's you know what? If it's anything other than me yelling "fuck you" at the screen and turning it off, I'd be surprised.
Yeah.
That's gonna be
it might not even happen though, because they took the trailers down, so that means it's canceled.
Yep, canceled. Everyone freaked out.
Yeah.
Everyone, I love it. These people are so fragile.
Yeah. And it was like it was the week of election of a national election, and these people are trying to take over Twitter about fucking Snyder Cut. It's like, let's process one fucking thing at a time, people.
Yeah, we actually have something important happening.
Yeah. This is a real thing.
Where's my trailer? Where's my trailer? I need the trailer. Only one thing will help me through this. It's so beautiful how these people cling to this. It is their saving grace. Now I just want it to not come out so it can crush everyone's soul and spirit so they give up. I'm never gonna. I don't have faith in humanity anymore, man. This sucks.
So, if you've noticed, we're avoiding this week's movie. Because this week was Dan's pick. And Dan, as few months ago, I had said that there have been certain types of movies that were banned until the start of 2021. And I'd forgotten about that before Dan had picked this. But Dan, why don't you introduce this week's movie?
Sure. So, yes, I will apologize. I'll start that. I apologize for this episode. I was kind of under the gun, to be fair.
Short week.
We had a short week, a short turnaround. This was like our Thursday night football.
Although, also to be fair, I said last week, if you could pick it before the weekend, it would help me out.
Oh, that's true. So, well, there goes that. All right. But anyway, I was shirking my responsibility. I had a lot on my mind. All right,
It was
guys.
Halloween weekend.
It was Halloween weekend. I was hosting for a few people, and I was under the gun there. My
And
wife was
Zack
yelling at me.
Snyder Cut trailer disappeared.
Yeah, I was not in the right headspace. All right, Aunt. All right, I was very distraught. I was just my soul was heavy. But yeah, I apologize for this. But I luckily or unluckily, whatever, however you want to put it, I was scrolling through Twitter and I saw a tweet from Scott Weinberg, who I follow and you should follow as well. He's very funny. He's a fellow Philadelphian, Mark, I believe. And he posted that a movie had just come out on Prime and it looked interesting. So it had Nicolas Cage in it. It had Darth Vader in it. I can't remember his name. I just had it up.
James Earl Jones.
That's it. Hayden Christensen. Yes, James Earl Jones. It had Hayden Christensen and Nick Cage. So I said, oh, that's like the perfect storm of suckage right there. There's no way this can't be bad or good. There's no way that this can't be good to review. That's what I'm trying to say. So I did a quick search on it. Seemed promising. Outcast. That is what I chose. And you know what? Not great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Outcast. Not great. Mark, where you come from with this movie?
I think that was the tagline for the movie.
Yeah, so
14 Outcast.
I had no idea about this movie. Obviously, with it being a more recent Nick Cage movie, I haven't seen many of those. But I was as excited when Dan mentioned that it might have Nick Cage and Hayden Christensen in it, because just that combo of acting together would be enough for this show. And we do get it a little bit near the end when they're both together. But man, is this movie not White Savior, the film, in it?
It kind of is, yeah. It kind of is.
It is. Everything about it, just going through it, I was just like, okay, I kind of don't know where we are. Like, in the beginning, I kind of got that we were in the Crusades, and then they go east, but they're not totally east, because it still looks like Middle East. I don't know if they popped something up on the screen that I missed to really get location, so... But all it was about was these white people saving these darker skinned people from things going on. That's essentially what the entire movie was about. And then it all ends with a cultural appreciation Helm's Deep at the end there, with the battle outside the cave, where the only two people strategizing anything are Hayden Christensen and Nicolas Cage for that whole thing, despite the fact that two very competent warriors, as we find out during the fight. I really wanted it to be more about Nick Cage's character. But I was slightly disappointed that it wasn't as good as it sounded like going in.
Yeah, I think the problem is that we follow Hayden Christensen, and Hayden Christensen isn't a Nicolas Cage. He is a blank slate. That's not fun. Nicolas Cage is anything but a blank slate, especially here in the 20 minutes that we have with him. He's off the rails. Not Vampire's Kiss Nicolas Cage, but for let's make this movie to try and make money in the Chinese market, he's pretty off the wall here. So he's only in it for 20 minutes. He's in the very beginning. He's at the very end. And he's wild. And then it's just a lot of walking around and a lot of action pieces that aren't terrible. You know, the choreography's okay. It's just, I likened this in our texts to Legend of Hercules, the one we did, which started the ban on these types of movies.
2 for 2.
It just feels the same, really. The very beginning of this movie feels very inspired by 300. And
it kind of felt like, what was it, like Last Kingdom? Have you ever seen that movie with Orlando Bloom?
Kingdom of Heaven?
Kingdom of Heaven, that's what yeah.
I'm pretty sure there's a movie called Last Kingdom that might be similar to this, too.
Maybe. That might be newer. But Kingdom of Heaven, I thought that's where they were going with this.
This just reiterates what I said about these movies and the Legend of Hercules. They're not for me.
I don't know who they're for, to be honest.
Yeah, that's just these sword and sandal movies. This is close enough to that where it's just like, all right, I get it. I don't love it. I don't really love even the good ones that I'm not a huge fan of. Like Gladiator is fine. I saw it once. I don't ever need to see it again. I know this probably is coming. This sounded like blasphemy to Dan as he's got his Russell Crowe poster.
Do I? Wait, did Jen get a Russell Crowe poster and I didn't know? Oh no, I am not that big of a Russell Crowe fan. I mean, I like that
Gerard
movie.
Butler poster? Is there one of those down
That
there?
well, now that's in my room. I have that on I have that on the ceiling. So before I go to bed, the last thing I see and the first thing I wake up to is Gerard Butler.
She does have a Russell Crowe poster down there, but it's that movie that he shot in Italy with Ridley Scott and Penelope Cruz or whoever,
Yeah.
where he owns a vineyard.
What? Is that a real thing?
Yeah, it is.
Oh God, that sounds
I
awful.
forgot the name of it, but
No,
I'm looking it up right now. I just need some time.
I listen. I do like Gladiator. I thought that was a very good movie, but I am not in love with Russell Crowe. I think that's like the only Russell Crowe movie I like.
That's exactly what somebody who would be in love with Russell Crowe would say.
Right. I don't like him. I swear I don't like him.
It's called A Good Year, and it wasn't Penelope Cruz. It was the one that looks like Penelope Cruz, Marianne Cotillard.
She looks like Penelope Cruz.
Yeah, she's like a dark-haired woman from Europe.
Okay. Well,
Oh,
close
God.
enough, I guess.
By the way, that's such a pretentious name for a wine movie.
Yeah, it is.
This is how boring this movie was, where, I started watching it and it opens up in the Crusades, and for some reason, Hayden Christensen and Nick Cage have enough time in the middle of like one of the most historic battles in like history. They have enough time to just kind of bitch and moan at each other.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, dudes are being shot with arrows behind them, getting sliced in half, and they're just kind of, shooting the shit. But I was like, all right, I can kind of get behind this. I like these types of movies. I enjoy war scenes. Who doesn't like that? And then it takes a nosedive after that when they leave the Crusades and now Hayden Christensen is a drunk.
Mhm.
And then I just decided, like, you know what? I'm gonna just like work out now. I'm just gonna start doing some exercises and I'll catch what I can. So I kind of got the gist of this movie. It was more along the lines of Cliff Notes that I have here.
Sure.
And it's a longer movie. It's like close to 2 hours, right?
No.
It's like an hour and 40.
Yeah. It felt like 2 hours.
Yeah, this is one movie I do not need longer and grittier.
No. But also, like, I kind of liked the simplicity of the story it was going for, where it's a hostile takeover, right? It's happened in history forever. It's happening right now, sort of. And it's one of those things where it could have been done so much better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think what Mark is saying with the whole white savior, if you don't follow Hayden Christensen and you follow the brother and sister instead, and maybe you get Nick Cage in there at one point to just be like a mentor, not the savior, this movie probably does a little bit better. But Hayden Christensen is just he's not dynamic enough. I think that's a good way to put him.
Yeah.
You know who would have been great in this movie? Maybe not great, but for some reason, Chris Pine.
I like Chris Pine. I think he would do a much better job than
Yeah.
Hayden Christensen.
But is Chris Pine just not? Isn't he just Matt Damon in The Great Wall?
Well,
Does Chris Pine's accent change 6 times in the movie?
I mean, we haven't made this movie yet. He can.
we
My
can
favorite
make
part
him.
of
We can make him do whatever we want. Who else was in Great Wall? What's his name is, right? Mando?
Is he?
I think so.
Pedro
That's his
Pascal?
partner, isn't it?
I don't remember.
It's the only 2 things I remember about Great Wall is that it was another thing made to make money in the Chinese market, and that Matt Damon couldn't decide on an accent.
No, Mark, you can't prove that it was supposed to make money in China. You can't prove that. All right. There's no shred of evidence that the Great Wall was to make money in China. All right.
And showing the Chinese destroy the Mongols or make the Mongols look like supernatural animals or whatever. Whatever that movie is supposed to.
Or maybe
I
third
forget.
build Hong Kong actor Andy Lau.
I like how they all dressed up as Power Rangers in that movie. Did you ever see that? Everyone's like super colorful and their armor is like sharp and shiny. Yeah, I thought that was very fun. Just like they did in ancient China. They had Power Ranger suits.
There is a better version of this movie, and it's called The Hidden Fortress, which was the basis of Star Wars, done by Akira Kurosawa in the 50s or 60s. Essentially the same story. But yeah, it's a movie. I don't really have much interesting things to say about it. There's like a lot of swaths where things just happen. It's not...
Right. It blends. Every scene
Yeah.
kind of just blends, where I don't think Hayden Christensen says anything of importance. You know what it is? It's one long mission where Christensen is just helping these two people get from
An
point A to
escort
point
mission.
B.
Escort
It's an
mission,
escort
the movie?
mission. Yes, that's exactly what it is. It's just one long escort mission.
They decided at some point to just take the most generic plots that you could take, like disgraced brother is general but thinks he deserves the crown,
Right.
and they're going to younger brother. But this isn't sexist, so the daughter is actually the protector. She's
Right.
the strong one. And then the younger brother wants to be the populist king that is out for the little man when he's confronted with one of them. And then the white ghost is obviously your friend from a long
Right.
time ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just all those tropes and just very generic tropes that can show that this was probably written pretty quickly, would be my guess. That somebody just said, oh, we need, like Ant said earlier, we just need some movie that has Far East stuff in it that we can make some money in China. Just write something up. They love that whole dynasty bullshit, right? Yeah, let's do that.
Got news for you. This movie didn't make jack shit either. Also, the girl they pick up lifts right out of this movie.
Yeah. I thought they were going to make her either be like this really good martial artist or something like that, like something else that was missing, like a surprise.
I needed magic, I think.
Yeah.
Needed something. Like, I think the girl should have been like a magical healer. Like, he gets run through and it's like, no, wait. And just does like a hand thing on him. I was like, oh my God, why is this in here? I don't know, but it's fun.
Ancient Chinese secret.
Yeah.
So the budget was 25 mil. It made 5 million.
Worldwide made 5 mil.
Yeah, cumulative.
Yeah.
That's, as they say in the business, pretty bad.
Yep.
And I think that 5 million was probably like Nicolas Cage's paycheck.
His monthly payment towards his pyramid headstone.
Are we worried that Nicolas Cage will just be remembered as the guy who took whatever and not as like a pretty good actor?
I think probably.
Right?
For a mass audience.
And I don't know if that makes me sad or just like I'm indifferent about it, but because we've all seen the good that Nick Cage can do.
Mm-hmm.
And there's episodes in sitcoms dedicated to him. There's podcasts directed towards just all of his movies. I feel like you see the good that he's done is being overshadowed by this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't necessarily think he cares, but it's just weird to think that years from now, when he dies, people are going back like, oh, well, let's watch a Nicolas Cage movie, and there'll be like 1,000 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, where do I start? It really doesn't matter, I guess, because they all just kind of blend at certain points.
Yeah. I think the precedent for that would be Christopher Walken.
Here's another one.
So Christopher Walken, I mean, I'm pretty sure he won the Oscar for his role in Deer Hunter. So he's an accomplished actor, but as he got older, he was in the Country Bears movie. And I think I always remember a quote of his, and I'm going to paraphrase it because I don't remember exactly what it was, because someone asked him, why does he take all these roles in these objectively bad movies? And he said, well, I'm an actor. That's what I do. So I act. So people offer me roles and I like to act. So I act in these movies.
It's essentially, that's his job. Who turns down work?
Yeah.
So if you're a freelancer, if someone comes to you for work, you're not going to turn it down.
Yeah. I just need everyone to forget about that unfortunate boat ride I had with Robert Wagner.
The more movies I do, the less people remember. That's a great article, by the way.
Yep.
The Onion article. Oh my God.
Still my favorite. I wonder what my life would have been like if I hadn't turned down Star Wars or thrown Natalie Wood off that boat.
In the span of a week, I think you sent me 2 articles. One was the dreaded Laramie one, with the click hole.
Which one of my garbage sons are you?
I'm telling you, listeners out there, go look up this article. Which one of my garbage sons are you? I have not laughed so fucking hard in so long than when I read that article. Like, some of the choices are like hiring Eddie Van Halen to come to my house and to go to your father's house and tell him how bad your father is, or something like that. It is so batshit insane, but it's so good. And I think we were discussing that article, and you sent the Onion one about Christopher Walken. Was he really up for the role?
Yeah, I believe he turned down Han Solo.
Wow. There's a just real quick, Patton Oswalt does a bit about how apparently Nick Nolte was also up for the role of Han Solo, but I think he lost out to Harrison Ford at like the last minute.
Mm-hmm.
So he does a good bit about that. And he's like, "Oh hell, Chewbacca, I don't know. Oh, go fix the high. Oh jeez." That's essentially what Harrison.
It's so funny. It's everyone's Nick Nolte impression, because I've heard it on other podcasts too, is him saying, "Oh hell, I don't know."
Oh hell, I don't know, Chewbacca. Oh gee. He does another one with was if he's Batman. Oh hell, Robin, the bat signal. Call the cops. But yeah, I would have liked to have seen that in I'd like to see that in any movie. Put it in Outcast.
Speaking of Outcast,
Ghost. Oh hell, I'm not. Just leave me alone.
he would have fit right into that saloon.
He would have, right? As the drunk guy, as drunk Hayden Christensen.
Outcast from 2014 is directed by Nick Powell. He's only directed one other movie, the 2019 film Primal, also starring Nicolas Cage. That's the one where he is a collector of exotic animals that break loose on the shipping containers.
Yeah, so a documentary.
Yeah. That's another that movie sounds interesting. He's an accomplished stuntman, Nick Powell. He's a stunt coordinator, almost too many to name, but some with Born Identity, 28 Days Later, Cinderella Man, Judge Dredd, Braveheart. Starring Nicolas Cage, Hayden Christensen, Paul Philip Clark, Simon Chin, Brian Ho, and Yifei Lee, also known as 2019's or 2020's Mulan. She plays Leanne, I think, in the name of this movie. IMDb score of 4.6 and a Rotten Tomatoes score of 5. Budget
pretty low.
$25 million, and it made 5.
We'll just let that hang there.
It got
Rotten Tomatoes score of 5.
It made $1 million for each percentage point on Rotten Tomatoes it scored.
You know what I think it is with this movie? It's not the fun bad, because whenever we review a bad movie, it's fun bad.
Yeah.
Right? This is just bad.
Yes.
It's a movie that, and forgive me if you guys had alluded to this earlier, that if they would have picked a lane in the beginning, like if it would have been a movie all about the Crusades or a movie all about a Far East dynasty thing, you may have had a better shot at making a better movie.
It should have been what it should have been. So we have at the beginning where Christensen and Cage are kind of going at it, and how Christensen makes a comment to Cage that he's no longer the same person as he was when this whole thing started. We should have seen what it built up to. We should have seen how these guys are devout Christians. They're fighting for God. And along the way, they're just like, they're doing all the atrocious things that were done in the Crusades. And like, it turns Nick Cage from a zealot into just like, what the fuck are we doing here? But he says that in a really bad accent. And you do it that way instead of it just like, you're a different person. Well, okay. How do we know that? He looks like Nick Cage to me.
I think this movie just takes itself too seriously, to be honest with you.
Yes.
Except for Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage is not taking this movie seriously. He's in his own movie when he comes on screen. We talk about a lot of just like, when we're talking about these bad movies, is just rip off better movies. This movie, you could rip off Star Wars in this movie. If you could, Hayden Christensen could be the Han Solo of this movie, but he takes himself too seriously.
It would have been great if at the beginning there's the scene with all the crossbowmen on the wall. It would have been great if he just like, all right, enact Order 66, and then everyone just runs and just slaughters all of the defenders.
Yeah.
That would have been fun. A nice little throwback.
I think the only time I was happy for something he did in this movie was when he punched that madame in the face when they got tricked.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. Just walks right up to her and punches her.
Yeah, so that scene too, that's like when they go to that town, I thought we were going to have a Mos Eisley moment, you know?
Yeah.
That felt like, especially when they were getting in there and she like pays off the guards and the guards let them through. It felt like this was going to be like a Mos Eisley scene, but not really. So that was a little disappointing in terms of just I wanted to have fun. It's like these are exotic locations. It's like,
Right.
I mean, we do trot around the woods for 50 minutes of this movie, which isn't fun. Like I watched that on a shitty Prime horror movie.
It's a lot of trudging.
Yeah.
It's Lord of the Rings without any of the mysticism.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you guys want to get into the plot?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, hell. I don't want to get into the plot.
Well, what do you got for us, Dan?
Okay, so as I like to say and talk about our good friend Tia and her podcast, Top 10 with Tia. It's a weekly podcast where Tia and her friends get together and they discuss top 10 lists, top 10 movies, top 10 horror movies, directors, you name it. They're talking about it. So go check her out. You could follow her at TC_Stark on Twitter, and you'll find more about her there. Good friend of the podcast, good person in general. Go check her out.
Okay. And we are going to take a quick break. And while we do, you can listen to some messages from friends of the podcast. So we will be right back.
Hey everyone, this is Steve.
And this is Adam.
And we're part of the Hop Nation USA podcast,
Pittsburgh's #3 craft beer podcast.
Join us every Friday for new beer reviews.
We'll talk about the news, history, and homebrewing.
Plus, we'll sit down with the best brewers and industry personalities that'll have us.
So whether you're a casual drinker, a hazy boy hophead,
or even if you're a whale hunting cellar hoarder,
just search Hop Nation USA on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcatcher and join the nation.
Oh hi, didn't see you there. It's me, George, from the best little horror house in Philly, the show where we talk about the best horror movie ever made, according to our guest at least. We've talked about groundbreaking classics like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Alien, but we've also got a lot of great ones coming up, including some very fun guests like Len Kabaczynski of Swamp Zombies and Red Letter Media fame, Caroline Williams, the star of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, and Chase Williamson from John Dies at the End. So make sure you're subscribed to the best little horror house in Philly, and I'll see you boils and ghouls over there.
And welcome back, and now it's time to get into the plot for Outcast. And I've promised these guys we're going to get through this quick because we don't really want to talk about it all that much, to be honest with you.
Yeah, just being honest.
Yeah, so we open Middle East, 12th century, and a group of faceless warriors are barging into some castle somewhere, and they're fighting other faceless dudes. And we see two faces, Hayden Christensen and Nicolas Cage, and they're just killing a bunch of dudes with swords. But while they do, they have enough time to bitch to each other. One talking about how we don't need to do this. The other one saying, no, we totally do because God told us to. The one that wants to run away is Nicolas Cage. He's tired of this bullshit, more or less.
The generic thing where he just says, go east. We have not established where we are exactly.
No, we are Middle East, so that would be right east, right?
Yeah. I meant like where, like if you go east from most places, it's just all desert in the Middle East. So you could just be sending him to his death, essentially.
I think that was what the hope was.
Yeah, just sending him off to die, really.
So they kill a bunch of people, and Nicolas Cage isn't happy about it, but Christensen seems to kind of be loving it. And then we flash forward 3 years later, and it's in the Far East, not the Middle East. And some king is dying because he's got movie cough. So he tells his young son, who's like 14, that he's going to give the throne to him, despite the fact that he has a brother that's been spending the better part of his adult years raping and pillaging as far as the eye could see, all in the name of his father. So then his brother returns home. Shang is the great warrior brother, returns home with a whole bunch of black soldiers, and they're like, we are going to take the throne forcefully. So he stabs his own dad when he won't give it up to him. And apparently there's some sort of seal that signifies who's the rightful heir to the throne. He gives that to, what was the kid's name? Zhao is the 14-year-old kid. And they escape with his sister, who is played by the girl that also plays Mulan in a live action film. And they escape thanks to Kung Fu Master Monk, who was never seen again because he dies.
Yeah, it took too long to get to the martial arts, to be honest.
Yeah.
This whole thing should have been martial arts movie. Just a martial arts movie.
Yeah. It was a moment where you know that this movie is taking itself way too seriously, as they just had that whole father-son scene for way too long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then, Zhao and his sister, by the name of Lian, they make it through the wilderness into some sort of outpost in the mountains, trying to get away from the Black Guard. And they stumble into some sort of saloon, and they ask people that they need help, they need protection to ride to a certain place. I don't even remember where the place was, but
No, me neither.
it was. I think it winds up being like a general outpost or something. So the patrons of the bar, the saloon, believe, hey, this is our chance to make some money. And then Jacob, who is played by Hayden Christensen doing his best Chris Hemsworth impression, decides to stand up and say, hey, I'm drunk and I want my sword back because he sold his sword for some beer money. And then he winds up just killing a whole bunch of dudes and saving their lives. As I said, I'm going through this really quick.
Yeah, it's crazy that a drunk Hayden Christensen could kill elite soldiers.
Mm-hmm. He's not even just drunk. He's also high on opium.
Yeah, because every shot, and here's a super annoying thing about this movie. Anytime we look at the world through Hayden Christensen's character's eyes, it's blurry, blurry vision, and it wears thin super quick. But they do it a lot.
Yep.
Yeah, well, Hayden Christensen's character in this scene shows you what happens when you have fought for the power of God.
That's a good point.
Like Christianity makes you a super soldier, essentially.
It's worked for me, guys. I know that.
Yep. So he kills those people, and then Zhao and Lian basically tell him, now you have to protect us. You're the only person that we could trust. We have to go to Xingyang. That's what it was. I have to get to Xingyang. So, and then he's just like, I'm not, but I'm going this way, and you guys better leave this place or else you're going to wind up dead. So he goes out on the trail, and then they are kind of following behind, but slowly, because he's got a horse, and he's just like, peace y'all. But then the black guard is hot on their trail, so then he feels like he's responsible for them. So then he goes back to them, and he helps them hide, and then they're off. They team up. Eventually, they continue to walk through the wilderness. They come across a village that has been sacked by the Black Guard. One of the guards is trying to get away with one girl that I guess he plans to rape. And Hayden Christensen from way downtown takes out a bow and arrow and shoots him from about, 300 yards.
Yeah. And the most over-dramatic bow shot I've ever seen.
Yeah. It is silly. Because then Zhao was just like, well, how did he do that? And he
That's
said,
impossible.
Practice. And it's like, you probably got lucky, to be honest with you.
Do you think he just had like that moment, like, holy shit, I can't believe that worked?
The guy was serpentining too.
and there was the woman was on his back, right? The woman that he was trying to save is on the rider's back. That's like a 1 in a billion shot right there.
Mm-hmm.
And he does it. Somehow he does it.
He's just too good. He's like Mickey Mantle, swing for the one in the middle.
He put up career numbers right there.
So they save the girl, and she has no bearing on this plot whatsoever, but she is a person that got paid every day to show up on the set, I guess.
Come on, man. She does things.
She eats food.
Yeah. She says a couple lines, presumably important stuff. I don't remember.
So then they continue to go traveling around. Eventually they make it to the desert, and they happen across a caravan of people on camels, and they are still being hunted down by the Black Guard. So they pay the woman that is in charge of the caravan to escort them through into this next neighboring village, and he gives them all a bunch of gold, and she says, yeah, sure, come along. And then they get into the city, and we have this Mos Eisley almost scene where it seems to be a den of iniquity, and there's harem of women and drugs and alcohol free flowing, and Jacob Hayden Christensen is enjoying every minute of it, and then he gets drugged and he passes out. When he comes to, he's been tied up and locked into prison, as well as Zhao and Lian, but he quickly breaks out, kills a few guards.
So when he sets his wrist ties on fire, how doesn't everything else set on fire? Because all you see is it just goes up, like the flame just goes around it and the scene cuts away. I'm like, that makes no sense. That's not. He's got a sword right there that he could probably use to cut the rope off.
He was trying to be dramatic. It's for effect.
Yeah, that was an improv from Hayden Christensen.
wouldn't it be cool if I did this?
I don't think anyone should allow him to do any sort of improvisation ever.
Yeah.
Like, you've lost that privilege, my man.
Yeah.
Fun trivia fact, killing the younglings was all improv.
Yeah. Hey, George, I know you want this whole thing to go differently, but what about if I, instead of just like walking out from the kids, what if I just brutally murdered them? I don't know, man. That's a little dark. Yeah, but isn't that like that's what Darth Vader would do? I don't know if he would do that. Well, I mean, he does.
It's like poetry. It rhymes. So I'm gonna say yes.
Right. And he does destroy a whole planet. So I'm presuming there were children on that planet.
I don't give a shit. I'm gonna sell off this property for $4 billion in like 15 years.
Do whatever you want, Hayden.
And in this movie, Hayden Christensen just pulls out a DVD copy of episode 3 and go, "You're going to do my improv, right?"
I wonder if, like, on the set of Outcast, do you think they were just like Nick Cage and Hayden Christensen were just like comparing shitty movies that they've been in? Like Jumper. And then Nick Cage was just like 50 different things. Like, all right, well, I got that beat. Fucking Phantom Menace. Well, he wasn't in Phantom Menace.
Attack of the Clones.
Clone Wars. Attack of the Clones. Oh, shit. Oh, that's pretty good, Hayden. That's pretty good. You got me there. I don't know.
Have you seen Snake Eyes?
Wasn't Hayden Christensen in a Nazi movie? I feel like that was something.
I don't know. Maybe.
But yeah.
Let's see.
I also kind of feel bad for Hayden because I wanted to bring it up that I feel like he kind of got the short end of the stick with the prequels.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean those movies are just poorly written.
Yeah.
They're toy grabs. That's pretty much what it is.
Yep.
So he wasn't really given the best, but he didn't help. I remember, Ant, when you and I first met each other, we spoke in length about the sand speech.
Yeah.
It's coarse. It gets everywhere. You don't help yourself with that kind of monologue.
Yeah.
That was so bad. I think someone did a whole video about how to change the prequels, and I think it's something along the lines of like the sand or whatever. It's so funny. They're animals, and I slaughtered them like animals.
I still think it's the worst Star Wars movie.
I think all three of those are really bad. All of a sudden, it's gotten kind of people have gone lax on it. On the prequels.
Because people are insane on Twitter. There's no crazier Twitter than film Twitter or like geek film Twitter, I'll say.
Yeah.
Because like everything is underrated. Yep. Everything's like, oh, you know what? It's actually not that bad. Like sometimes movies just suck.
Yes.
And it's okay to like movies that suck. We do a whole entire podcast of movies that suck, but half the time we love them.
Right. Yeah. But we're not going out into the world screaming that these movies are good in any, like these movies are actually pretty good. You should check them out. No, they're bad.
Yeah.
But if you like bad movies, watch it.
I remember 2016. I remember everybody hating Suicide Squad. I remember everybody hating Jared Leto specifically in Suicide Squad.
Another one, Amazing Spider-Man 2. All of a sudden, everyone is an Andrew Garfield stan.
Where were you when he was trying to make box office?
Right. If you guys showed up, we might have had an Amazing Spider-Man 3. So don't come around here now touting how he's the best Spider-Man. You're wrong. You're wrong. You're fucking wrong.
He lost Emma Stone because of you assholes. I assume. I don't know if they're together or not.
Yeah. He just couldn't take the pressure of being the worst Spider-Man at the time.
He was all fucking Ryan Gosling behind Eva Mendes' back. You know those two are doing it.
So yeah, that's the thing, man. Just don't. Pretty soon we're just gonna be years from now. It's just gonna be like, oh, like we have Batman v Superman. That's actually a good movie. Shut up. Shut up.
You know what movie's totally underrated? Jonah Hex.
I'm waiting for that. What about Green Lantern? We kind of go back and look at it. Ryan Reynolds gives a nuanced performance. Shut up. Go away, please.
Yeah. If there's any genre of film that does not need to be re-examined, it's comic book movies.
Right. They're doing just fine regardless.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone keeps complaining on Twitter that there should be an edit button. There should be a button where if you make a nonsensical tweet like that, you get banned for 24 hours. Well, I think the prequels are actually better than the... Hello? What happened? I can't send. What happened?
Prequels are better than the sequels, bro.
Nostalgia's a hell of a drug.
I think people are just trying to be edgy.
Those hot takes.
Yeah, contrarian, I guess.
Yeah.
It just makes you look foolish.
People have replaced having a personality with having a hot take.
That's a very good point. But I think that's true because everyone just posts random shit and just like use this as a like button if you think Andrew Garfield was the best Spider-Man. I mean, he was okay, but those movies are terrible.
Yeah.
They're objectively bad.
Yes. Now back to Outcast. I don't even know why.
This movie.
I don't know why. So he punches a woman in the face. They escape after he fights some people. Eventually, he gets wounded, and he eventually tracks down Zhao and Lian, who has gone ahead of him because they were trying to escape into the woods. Blackguard was after them. He eventually passes out. When he comes to, some sort of medicine woman is working on him, and a familiar face of Nicolas Cage by the name of Ghislaine, I think was the name, that how they pronounced his name, in Ghislaine.
Doesn't matter.
And it's Nicolas Cage doing something. He's got Gene Simmons kiss hair with the little ponytail on top.
It's his talking style. I don't want to say accent because it might be the same. Completely different than it was when we first see him.
I have no clue. It's hard to decipher what he is.
It's been a hard 3 years for Ghislaine. Let's just say that.
It just looks like to me, maybe it's because I blanked out the entire beginning of the movie, but it just felt like he was a completely different character when he showed up here.
Oh, he is, yeah. My favorite line reading is, "You want my blood?" I don't even remember how he says it, but he says it so ridiculous because he says it twice. "You want my blood? You want my blood?"
What does he say to the one girl? Like, he calls her like no one says that to me, child. Like, his line readings are so good. This is what we should have had from the beginning.
Yeah. I'd watch a Ghislaine movie. I mean, I already watched this piece of shit, so might as well.
They should have done the opposite, where they find Hayden Christensen and he's only in it for 20 minutes.
It's like Wicked from the witch's perspective. Now we get Ghislaine's perspective. So Ghislaine's at some sort of like hideout in the middle of nowhere, and him and Jacob have some moments, and they don't really make up, but eventually they find out that Blackguard is coming to them, so they kind of, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, so they kind of start loading up, locking and loading and getting everything ready for the Blackguard coming. They build some grenades and they set some weapons up and they tell everybody where they want to be. Blackguard comes, and sure enough, they set a trap for them by kind of burning some brush so it's all full of smoke so the Blackguard can't see, so they kind of pepper and pick off the Blackguard one by one with arrows. And eventually we just get some fighting. Some bombs are thrown. They booby trap the cave with like this sweet Home Alone style swing of spikes that come in and hit the Blackguard. And then eventually Ghislaine is in the path of a grenade that's about to go off, so his wife May comes to save him, pull him to safety, and she dies. So then he goes completely berserker mode and starts just kicking ass and taking names and getting hit sometimes. He's in a rage. He's in a frenzied rage.
He goes Wolverine, berserker rage.
So eventually the Blackguard takes him in front of Shing and they kill him. So then Jacob then goes into his own little mini berserker and he starts fighting people. Eventually, it's Shing versus Jacob in a one-on-one showdown. First, he does terrible, and then Lian tries to put a stop to it by holding a knife to her brother, and her brother stabs her. So then Jacob goes crazy, and he starts winning against Shing, but then two guys from out of nowhere just shoot arrows at him, try and kill him in the middle of their fight. And then eventually Jacob stabs Shing, and Shing dies. And then Lian just comes back to life all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And she's not going to die.
It might go into your theory, Dan, was the character that wasn't anything in the movie, like, holding on to her at this point? Because you have healing hands?
Is that what it was?
I'm just making a comment. Like,
he's bullshitting.
Yeah.
Bullshitting, yeah.
Man, this movie doesn't deserve that.
So then after Lian regains consciousness and Shing dies, the general of the Black Guard bend the knee to Zhao, calling him Your Majesty. So now they have agreed that he is the rightful heir to the king. So then they go to the general's residence, and the generals find out the fate of Zhao, Xing, and Lian. And Jacob is now recovered from his wounds, and they buried May and Ghislaine. And Lian and Jacob have one last affectionate moment, and then they leave Jacob behind because he can't go with them because his soul's too stained. Bodies follow him everywhere, or death follows him everywhere. Then Zhao makes it to the general's residence, and they bend the knee as well. And that's the end of Outcast in the shortest possible way I could describe this film.
It was pretty short. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Dan's got places to be.
Oh, yeah. My bed.
Yeah, it's a swing and a miss. They can't all be winners.
Yeah. You know, I'm on strike 2 there. I got to be careful. Listen, I'm going to try again next week. Or in a couple of weeks. A few weeks.
I mean, hey, only one of us has picked Love on a Leash, so.
That's true. Well, you know, listen, guys. This really sums up the beauty of Nick Cage. Either you're going to get a good performance, a good bad performance, or a bad performance. So that's how it's going to be.
Would you consider this just a bad performance?
Yeah, this is the latter. This is the third choice, unfortunately. But yeah, I was led astray. It happens, man. It happens. None of us are perfect.
Yeah. Anything you do to make this better?
I liked my idea of setting it during the Crusades. We were establishing that it's a serious movie. We want to have it where, you know, maybe Hayden Christensen is a young, energetic soldier of God, and he wants to do his part to rid, you know, he wants to get the Holy Land back. And Nicolas Cage is that grizzled vet who's seen some shit, and they're fighting, they're, you know, doing all this abhorrent stuff to women, children, innocents, and it really sours on Nicolas Cage's soul. But Hayden Christensen's like really all about it. So maybe you get to the final act where they're storming the castle. They take this. It's a huge step for them. Maybe there's a big fight at the end between Hayden Christensen and Nick Cage because it's just Nick Cage has had enough, and Hayden Christensen calls him like a pussy or something like that. Go east, you fucking pussy, then get out of here. And they fight, they duel, and Hayden Christensen kills Nick Cage or vice versa, however you want to do it. But yeah, I think it would have just been cool to see from that perspective how, because we all know what religion can do to the easily swayed, I guess. So yeah, something along those lines where Hayden Christensen just he gets really into it, and Nick Cage is kind of on his way out with it.
Yeah, mine is what I had said earlier. If they would have just picked a lane, like make it either all about the Crusades or all about this Far East royal family, I think either one of those films make it better. But it's kind of hard to make a pile of shit better. So that's really all I got.
I would just make it a little more fun. I wouldn't let it take itself too seriously. Like, I think you could be serious and be fun. This has no intentions of being fun. Like Raiders of the Lost Ark. I mean, obviously, all-time classic, but it's serious and fun at the same time.
Yeah, there's comedic tones.
Yeah. I did not have a fun time with this movie. That's all. That's really all I got to say.
No, me neither.
All right, I guess we're done.
And that's the end of that chapter.
All right, you guys want to plug your shit?
Yeah, at Diaquino122 on Twitter. Follow us at Stranger Damies on Instagram and Twitter as well. That's our Real Play D&D podcast. And we have a lot of important updates for the Game Vault stream. We retweet all the streams and anything else important that we have coming up. So just, you know, if you want to talk D&D, video games, movies, not bad movies that you think are good, actual good movies, we will talk about them there.
Our other two podcasts, as you mentioned, Stranger Damies, our D&D podcast, airs every Wednesday. You can find it by searching Stranger Damies. And then every other Monday, we have our gaming podcast, the Game Vault Podcast. So you can search that by the Game Vault Podcast. And those socials are at Game Vault Pod on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram. So at this point, this episode will probably air after our Extra Life live stream. So our full 24-hour drive is over. But you can still donate. We raise money for the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. So you can donate anytime from when you hear this episode until the end of the year by going to tinyurl.com/extralife5. Some of our donation goals, which you can find on the Game Vault Pod Twitter feed, will still be in effect because they are threshold goals. Hopefully we've met some of them or surpassed all of them by this point. But if not, feel free to check that out and see if it can help us get over the hump for something. I think we're all especially looking at the top one at $1,200 to see Tom play a horror game. So I think we're all pushing for that. So yeah, and like I said, on all streams and podcasts, no matter when you donate, you'll get a shout out and all that, and you'll be helping a good cause, raising money there. If you can't donate, feel free to retweet any of the reminders that the drive is still going on through the end of the year, and just signal boost it a little bit so that maybe other people that are able to donate, because I know 2020 has been a tough year, will be able to do that. Once again, the site is tinyurl.com/extralife, the number 5.
Okay, great. And this is They Called Us a Movie. You can find us at theycalledusamovie.podbean.com and on all podcast streaming apps just by searching They Called Us a Movie. We're part of the Main Damie Network, and you find them at themaindamie.com and on all social medias at The Main Damie. So that's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Just search for The Main Damie and we will pop right up. We're also proud member of Geek Vibes Nation. You'll find them at gvnation.com and on all socials and podcast streaming apps just by searching Geek Vibes Nation. Bunch of great shows on there. Top 10 with Tia, Geek Vibes Live, Scene and Nerd, Gutting the Sacred Cow. If there is something that you're interested in that is geek-centric, I am sure you could find a show for you. Maybe they have a show about geeky movies that need to be reevaluated. I don't know. That's going to wrap it up this week. If you have any questions, comments, hit us up at themaindamie@gmail.com. If you would be so kind, leave us a review and a 5-star rating on iTunes. It helps us out a great deal. Tell us you love us, tell us you hate us, but at least leave a 5-star review. That'd be amazing. And that's going to wrap it up for us this week. The movie was Outcast, and the director was Nick Powell. So for Dan Aquino and Mark Myers, this is Anthony DeVecchio telling Nick Powell, well, you certainly made a movie, didn't you?